Okay guys, welcome back again to this tutorial in Photoshop. Today I'm going to be designing a flyer with Photoshop, and I've already opened down the needed files for this design. I'm going to be using this beach ball, this photo that we edited previously where we changed the colors and removed the background, and I'm also going to be making use of this effect here. I would send the files later on in tutorial class. Okay, so this is what we are going to do. I've already to create a new document. Let me just close this and open it again. To create a new document in Photoshop, I'll go to File and take New. Now the settings here have already been pre-arranged, so just make sure you follow these details of this document here. Make your size in inches, units in inches rather. Width should be 7, height should be 7, perfect square. Make sure you are working with RGB color mode, and then leave your bitrate at 8. Okay, so why we are using RGB color mode is because we are designing for screen. If we're designing for prints, then the best mode to use would have been CMYK. Okay, but now we're going to be making use of RGB color mode. So I'll click OK, and now we have created a new window in Photoshop. Alright, so now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this transparent layer with a color, with a background color. So what I'm going to do is that I'll come here, right here, where you see these two colors overlapping. Now the first color, the red color in front, is the foreground, so what we call the foreground in Photoshop, foreground, while the black behind the red box is the background color. All right. So now if I double click on this foreground color, you see the hexadecimal value of this color. So this is called a color code, is hash CC0001. so this is the color code that I'm using as the foreground color here. All right, so I'll click OK. Now I'll flip. So if you are going to use the exact color I'm using, make sure to type this color code in your foreground settings. All right, so I'll click OK, and then I'm going to flip these colors. All right, I'm going to switch background and foreground colors. I want the red to come back and black to go to the front, so I'm going to click on this arrow here pointing to both directions, and when I do that, you see the red comes back. So now to fill this layer with the red, there are two ways I can do this. I can click Control space bar and delete together. Now when I hold Control space bar and delete together, it will automatically fill the layer with the background color. Now either that, or I can take Shift F5. Okay, and when I take Shift F5, it opens the fill dialog box. So from this drop down menu, I can click and select the background color and click OK, and you see it automatically fills the layer with the background color. All right, so next, now I'll go and I'll just take this layer and then move it, I'll click and drag. So this is basically the design we're going to be, this is basically the flyer we're going to be designing. Okay, so let me just do it this normal way I normally do it. I'll right click the layer, and then I'll select duplicate layer from the options that come up, and then select document, and then choose untitled. The untitled document is the document I just created, so I'll click OK. Now I'll come back to my titled folder, and now I can see the image, okay, inside the photo, inside the new document that I created. Now to adjust the size of this picture, I'm going to take Ctrl T on the keyboard, and then holding my Alt key down. The reason why I'm holding my Alt key is so that the shape does not get distorted while I'm trying to resize it. Pardon my voice, I'm a bit my voice sorry, hope you can hear me clearly. So I'm going to resize this by holding down my Alt key, and then while resizing, notice that it resizes evenly on all sides because I'm holding down my Alt key as I'm resizing. But if I should take my hands off the Alt key and just resize, there's a high risk of me distorting this photo. Okay, so I'm going to hold down my Alt key and resize. But if I do not do that, I may easily distort the photo. Okay, that's to avoid it looking something like this. Okay, so avoid it looking something like this. So you don't resize photos from the edge. Okay, you don't resize photos from the sides, rather you resize from the corners. Okay, now with that done, I'm going to resize the photo and position it just the way it is in the original design. Okay, alright, now you notice that this place, this place is a bit it's looking somehow. So the way I'm going to adjust this to make it look like this, so I'm going to tweak the image. Alright, okay, so alright, click and flip. Sorry, right click and flip horizontal. Now when I flip horizontal, it will look like this, just the way it appears in the flyer. Okay, so you see it looks like it does in the flyer. Okay, so now next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to bring in my splash effect. Okay, so now right click, duplicate layer, select untitled, click OK. Now click this, and click OK. Alright, now so on this layer panel you can see that the splash effect, this circular brush stroke right here, is resting on top of the my model here. So to remedy this, I'm going to just change layer order. So to change layer order, I'll select the model here and then click and drag it above the brush stroke. So you see the layer order has been resized, or rather rearranged. Okay, so let's look at this. Okay, we are going in the right direction. Let me slightly increase this a little bit. Then resize this a little bit too. Now, if you notice, the design here is white. The splash here, the brush stroke here is white. Now, to do so, to replicate that in this design, what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to invert this black color for this brush stroke. Now, take note that white and black are opposite colors. Okay, they are neutral colors and they are direct opposites. So if I take Ctrl I on the keyboard, you see it inverts, it goes to the opposite color. Okay, that's the negative, the opposite color of itself. Okay, so now white and black are opposites, so when I take invert, it will automatically switch to the color that is opposite to itself. All right, so that also goes the same for every other color. So you see, when I clicked on the red and I took invert, you see it changes to this cyan color. Okay, so Ctrl I will give you the opposite color. All right, so now I'll go back now, continue with the design, and then I'll get my beach ball. And then click on title again to make a copy of this layer in my design. Here's my beach ball. Now I don't like this white shadow looking stuff here underneath the ball. So the first thing I'm going to do before I start to work on this is that I'm going to remove or erase this. So how I'm going to do that is that I'm going to take my polygonal lasso tool and click, make sure that the layer of the beach ball is selected. So I'll click this, and just make sure I'm tracing the edges of the ball as neatly as I possibly can. Alright, then once I've successfully selected the portion of this shadow, I'm going to take the delete button. So what that does is that it has successfully helped me to delete that shadow, but then you notice that the edges are not really as smooth as I would have liked them to be. So now I'm going to try and make them as neat as possible. And how I'll do that is I'm going to take the magnetic lasso tool, and the magnetic lasso tool automatically tries to pick the edges of pixels. Maybe I should have used this first instead of going for the polygonal lasso tool initially. Okay, let me Ctrl Z this. Let me just use the polygonal lasso tool to clear this up. Okay. Alright, so there are different ways of doing this. I could decide to use the pen tool, decide to use the pen tool, and the way I'm doing this right now is that I'm making use of my control key to adjust. I'm just trying to show you different methods that can be used. Okay. Seeing this now. Different methods that can be used to clear up a background. Alright. So now I've successfully gotten a smooth curve around the ball edge. So you see what I did. I used polygonal lasso tool first, then I used the magnetic lasso tool, and now I'm using the pen tool. So these are just different ways for extracting or removing target areas of an image. Okay, so now that I've done that, I can just hold here, hold control, and come here and click. And when I do that, you see some tiny thread lines appear over the edges of this shape. Now with that selected, I can come here, select the ball, and take delete. Now what I have to do is that it will delete the edges that I do not want to be visible. So see how smooth the ball edges are now, much more smooth than before. So I just showed you two different ways of deselecting, or rather removing portions of a photo, or three different methods of making selections of an image. The polygonal lasso tool, which is this, the magnetic lasso tool, which is this, and then the pen tool, which is this. Okay, and from the example I just gave, you can see the advantages, disadvantages of using each tool. Okay, so now that I've achieved what I want to achieve, I'll click on the ball, position it here. I want it positioned, then I'll resize it. Now with my ball resized, I'll come to this photo now and see what next I need to do. I need to give it a shadow. So next I'll do is that I'm going to come, let me tweak this a bit. Now to make that possible, I take Ctrl T so that I can be able to edit the shape and position it like this. Ctrl T will automatically begin to enable you to transform the shape or size of the image. Now after I'm done, satisfied with and change the angle of the ball, I'll click OK, and then I'll make sure that I click underneath this layer. Alright, and then I'll come here where this plus icon is, underneath here where these icons are, underneath the layers panel, and click new layer from here. Okay, this plus sign here is a sign that signifies creating a new layer. So when I've clicked that and the layer is created, I'll come to my brush tool here, and then I'll increase the brush size by tapping on the right braces, the braces that are closing the closing braces on the right side. Okay, as I'm tapping those braces, you see it's increasing, and then tapping on the left braces reduces the size of the brush. Then I'll come here and reduce the opacity a bit. let's leave it at 49 for now. And then I'll come and just brush over the ball, or rather brush underneath the ball. Now as I'm brushing, you see it gives off a shadow, like it makes it look like a 3D realistic image now. Okay, because the ball is casting a shadow down. You see that now? So I think I'm satisfied with the shadow the way it is. Alright, so next now I'm going to work with text. So this is what I'm going to type in. Okay, just pushing that a little bit. Now select my type tool, that is this T symbol here. Now when it's active, I'll click and then I'll type. Now I'll come here and select, let's just, for now, for the sake of learning, let's just select any font. So I'll just take this, although the font I used there was I think Nexa. So let me just find it, Nexa. Now, mind you, these fonts are free to download online. So I'll resize. Click OK or enter. Selecting my type tool again, I'll come here to change the color fill to white. Okay, it's all capitals. So I'm going to make this all capitals. Okay, now to make a copy of this layer, okay, let me Ctrl Z. Now I do not want to have to go back to the type to select font and all that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of this text layer. And to make a copy or duplicate that layer, I'm going to take Ctrl J on the keyboard. So when that is done, you can see now that it's a copy of this text layer already made. So I'll click OK and then come here with the type tool and then make my editing. So I think I can make this a bit bolder. Okay. Ctrl T. Want it to be a little bit distorted, so then Ctrl G again to make a copy, bring it down, and then alright, so Voila, we just finished designing this in the Photoshop. So hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you can follow through with the instructions right here. Thank you.